Well, here we are again, game number 3. The scoreline is 1-1, all tied up here in this best of 5 between Complexity and Immortals. Draft's already well underway, so let's not waste too much time here. Immortals once again with the Tiny, nothing's really changed for them. And the Tusk Enchantress though, Complexity going a bit of a different route.
10 seconds.
No, I almost wish we
remaining.
had been online or on stream just maybe
5
10 seconds
seconds
earlier, because
remaining.
then I would have been able to tell you, hey, I think they should do something different. Maybe look towards the Enchantress from Complexity, because that slaughter pick, I believe, with the Witch Doctor being taken out, that does make it a little less effective. They do like pairing it up with another very strong physical support, usually the Wyvern. Then this time around they tried to Dazzle. Didn't really work out here, so I love that they are able to change it up a little bit in Immortals. They just stick to their guns. They're like, yeah. Tiny, Elder Titan, whatever, it works out.
They really love the Elder Titan. I mean, Tiny is super popular for a lot of teams. Elder Titan for some, but not nearly as many, so Immortals,
10
again,
seconds
as you
remaining.
said, just sticking to their guns. Nothing too crazy there.
5 seconds.
But they have
remaining.
shown some flexibility, right? They've played Elder Titan twice, but once as an offlane and once as a 4 position, so Complexity don't necessarily know what's coming here just yet. Alright, so with the Tusk Enchantress,
Dire team ban.
where did they run the Enchantress? Is that their offlaner probably? Or
No,
is
that's
that a 4
always,
position?
it's always Z-Freak.
Always Z-Freak, alright.
Well, I say always Z-Freak. I'm pretty sure Moo ran it like once, but generally speaking, it's Z-Freak. Like,
Right.
he's a beast on that hero. I mean, which hero isn't he a beast on, right?
That's a good
Radiant
that's a
team
good point, yeah. Alright, so and then Kyle on a Tusk, I guess. Again, one of these mobile heroes that wants to make plays essentially, and so is the Enchantress, right? You can do a lot as that roaming role with these early creeps. So they don't want to lose the laning stage again.
10
I think this is what
seconds
these
remaining.
first 2 picks already tell us.
For sure. Enchantress, a completely different
5
beast when it comes to the
seconds
laning stage.
remaining.
Much more present and also much more potent as well. Also scales really well. So it kind of ticks all those boxes. There's definitely ways to exploit the Enchantress, of course. And they do have a lot of burst damage against her. Generally speaking, Enchantress does well against physical damage because obviously, or more so, not necessarily physical damage, but more so the right clicks because, of course, the Untouchable. But with their combo on Immortals side, they do have an easy way of bursting it down early on. So expect Z-Freak to tank up quite a bit on here on the Enchantress. Wouldn't even be surprised to see Treads instead of
Dire
Phase
team
Boots this
pick.
time around. And then maybe even similar to the Witch Doctor build, going to an Urn and later the Spirit Vessel just to tank up really. For Complexity, they're very flexible. With the Tusk as well, they've run it both on Kyle but also on Moo. Depends really what they want to do. But generally speaking, I do think this should be a roaming Tusk.
10
I just don't
seconds
really see the
remaining.
potential here for the offlane Tusk to
Radiant
really
team
be
pick.
impactful. Unless they want a support that has a little bit more teamfight control. If they wanted to, they could always go back to something like the Warlock or the Silencer if they wanted to. A little bit. It's been a couple of months since they ran it really, but if they wanted that kind of control, that we could see that. But they also have the DK,
10
which we've seen
seconds remaining.
yesterday on the Moo offlane. I believe it was.
5 seconds.
Should have been,
that,
should have been. He ran it offlane, and it was quite successful
Yeah.
actually. So maybe we're gonna see it again. The only
Actually-
issue I have with this, no, it definitely was Moo DK,
No,
100%.
Leviathan picked the DK though. Complexity didn't pick it. According to Wikipedia,
I'm
anyway.
pretty sure that's
Dire
incorrect.
team
I'm
pick.
very, very sure that's incorrect. Because no, I'm very sure that's incorrect.
Huh.
I'm very sure that's incorrect because I made a point about how
Yeah.
Moo as an offlaner likes to rotate early to apply
yeah.
or to push
Yeah.
other lanes with his heroes, and DK fills that role.
10
Yeah.
seconds
Oh yeah, I
remaining.
remember that as well. Yeah.
I
That,
will
that
s-
was
I-
that was Chazet up.
Yeah.
5
I will
seconds
say what
remaining.
I don't like about this offlane in this scenario is, or if it was gonna be an offlane, I dislike the fact that it doesn't really have a lot of synergy with the Enchantress. When I do see the Enchantress, I want to see an offlaner that has a lot of kill potential with her together, and I feel like the DK here in the mid lane would be a little bit more potent. But
Yeah.
of course, as Complexity, what they really just like doing is just pick stuff that allows it to be as flexible as possible the later the draft goes on. So I'm not even sure if they know what they want to do with this DK just yet, right?
Yeah. It's good if you have these things in the back pocket, if you're not just limited to just one thing. And well, we'll see what happens now. And Shadow Demon is also one of these heroes, right? Normally it is a support, nowadays also being run with the Shadow Poison build because that's been buffed again. And that's one of these heroes that can zone out offlaners very effectively. DK would be able to withstand that though, right? You can regen all of that harassment up very easily. But then again, we've also seen Shadow Demon cores like being pulled out every once in a while, once in a blue moon even.
About what we saw one this week, and then of course at the summit was Pasha on the offlane Shadow Demon, pretty strong. The triple, or not the triple, the double ultimate with the Aghanim Scepter is pretty strong, of course, against
Radiant team
tanky
pick.
cores, being able to sort of zone him out. And yeah, that's that Bad Rider. This is the kind of hero that I was looking forward to from Mu. A little bit more aggressive, being able to take advantage of that roaming Tusk, but also the roaming Enchanters, of course, so a lot of kill potential early on.
Yeah.
So I think this has much more potential than a DK offlane. So that also does put the DK mid
10
versus
seconds
most likely the
remaining.
Tiny, and DK does fairly well against Tiny.
5
Tiny, yeah, again,
seconds
he does
remaining.
well against other mid heroes, of course, with the tree grab. But DK, as you mentioned earlier, quite tanky, has a lot of regen, so any harassment
Yeah.
coming out from him should be he should be able to withstand.
Yeah, like I mean, a safe lane Tiny is safe lane Dragon Knight has also not been unheard of. So, and Complexity, they do have the last pick coming into this draft. So if they see something from Immortals that makes them think, hey, we have a bit of a better matchup even up our sleeves, can also consider that because DK, one of these safe laners at the very least, one of these heroes in
Dire
general,
team banned.
that is still sustainable, right? That still makes sure the Tusk and Enchantress have the freedom to do whatever roaming they want without having to babysit anything.
I like how Immortals just basically picked the same draft again. I mean, they just substituted the Lion with the Shadow Demon, but
Yeah.
you know, it's,
10 seconds
in a way,
remaining.
the Shadow Demon does function very similarly.
Radiant
Maybe he's a
team
little bit more
banned.
defensive here, of course, but generally speaking, there is that potential for him to be aggressive with the right pair. But the Dusa here as a core, most likely going to be mid then, so that's going to be DK versus Dusa. Same story here though. It
Radiant
just sucks a little bit
team
that the
pick.
Mystic Snake you can't really avoid, or it's going to be difficult to avoid at least, and you know, it's going to drain all your mana, and of course you do want that mana for the Dragon Breath, or the Breathe Fire rather.
Yeah, just
And-
gets Soul Ring, I guess.
Yeah,
as
but the thing
they
is
know most
though,
heroes.
right, Soul Ring definitely, I mean, he would have gotten Soul Ring, or in most cases anyway,
Yeah.
you know, DKs these days
10
do that because
seconds remaining.
Soul Ring has been buffed towards strength heroes, but it still is a
5
lot of
seconds
harassment, and of course if you
remaining.
then
Oh, yeah.
use Soul Ring on top of it, you know, you're eating through your own regen.
Yeah.
Immortals here with the last pick might look towards or it looks like they were going to look towards an offlane. It could also be the support. As you pointed out earlier, they've run the ET in both positions right now. I kind of want to support here because I think they could be a little bit more
Dire
aggressive
team
early on.
Nyx assassin.
Well, Nyx Assassin again could be a support on
Although,
offlane.
yeah, it's pretty good against Bad Rider. It's one of these classic counters. You can always stun him if he has Firefly up, or if there's Spike Carapace, easy setup for the follow-up. And then Bad Rider is an intelligence hero, so he will be hurt by the
10
mana
seconds
burn
remaining.
quite a bit.
I think I
And,
still want the ET
5
as the core
seconds
here, though,
remaining.
because of the utility that he can
Yeah.
provide in the later stages
yeah.
of the game with his items. Nyx Assassin usually builds into different items that you don't really... I wouldn't say you don't need them here in this game, but I feel like the ET could be much more valuable. We saw the A Rod of 8 was coming out in the previous game. That could be huge here against the DK, Bad Rider, Enchantress, heroes that rely on positioning, really, especially the Bad Rider, of course. So being able to take him down would be quite nice. And Complexity looking to pick a carry here for them. Not an easy pick by any means. They need something that can deal with the Dusa going forward. And the Phantom Lance, of course, has been banned out by themselves, so not a straight-up counter available just yet. At least I can think of one.
Anti-Mage, I guess.
Well, I guess there's not that much lockdown, quote-unquote. They do have, of course, a lot of lockdown, but it's also not that...
Drow Ranger.
Ooh,
Choose
Drow
your
Ranger.
hero.
It's a bit of a different route, actually, Drow Ranger, but it's always a bit dangerous, because in most drafts there's always this one sort of jump potential or catch potential. In this case, Immortals, they do have the Nyx Assassin, they do have the Tiny, will eventually build like Shadowblade and Blink as well. And but outside of that, just looking at its synergy between Complexity's draft, Mu is not going to say no to the extra damage. Dragon Knight gets it in his ultimate form. Most importantly, Zephyr on the Enchantress just gonna amp up his threat potential even more in the early game, but also scaling into the later parts. So I don't completely hate it, but of course you always have to worry about Jesse being caught out and killed time and time again.
I really like the push potential coming out from Complexity. There's that potential for them to overrun Immortals again, which we saw
Yeah.
in Game 1, of course. Because Immortals right now, aside from the ET splitter, they don't really have much to throw at Complexity. They do have the Shadow Demon, which is kind of nice, but it's not really that effective as, you know, something like a Puck Orb or something, or like the Queen of Pain with Scream. There's not a lot to really divert or avert those pushes, and they also don't have that jump potential onto the Drow Ranger early on. They definitely need a good laning stage here for that MP Tiny, I believe. Getting him an early blink could really be the difference here, but the lanes are, I think, something that, again, I look at Complexity's lineup and I think they have really, really stable lanes. It's
Yeah.
difficult to kill the DK in mid. The Drow Ranger is definitely going to be a vulnerability, but then we look at the off lane, or rather the Bad Rider lane. We don't know which lane he's going to be on, but the Bad Rider lane together with the Enchantress
Prepare
potentially
for battle.
very, very deadly.
Yeah.
And once again, of course, Complexity going to head towards that bottom lane, and they're going to immediately trying to scout out where the opponents are going to be to get those favorable lanes as well.
Yeah.
Similar story, though, I suppose, with Immortals. They're also heading top. Of course, they also have wards with them, making sure they can drop those deep inside the enemy jungle to make sure that they do scout out early rotations or, you know, set up a favorable lane up top here.
These are the standard movements that we see from pretty much every team these days. I mean, some still try and go for these crazier, sneakier smoke plays where you just even go towards the mid or go up the high ground there, or just like wrap around here and maybe sometimes all the way back there. But it happens very rarely. If you do mess up, then you're forced to use a TP, and ideally you want to hold on to that.
30 seconds to
There's
battle.
always gonna be better usage for that later. But for now, it's as you said, Immortals just doing their thing once again, with probably the offlane pull happening sooner rather than later.
Once again, they dropped this really deep ward. They didn't really make much use of it in the last game. But potentially in this game, it could scout out crucial Enchantress rotations. Looks like we're going to have the...
The
Oh,
battle
wait, by the way,
begins.
it is the Moo.
I was just gonna bring it up, yeah. Moo DK in the safe lane, so
Orders.
we're gonna run him there, and it's actually Limp Bad Rider mid.
To be fair, Bad Rider is also one of Olympus heroes, don't get me wrong. And I suppose this kind of changes the dynamic of their lineup. But at the same time, we still have that strong laning stage in the mid lane, right?
Yeah.
And the Bad Rider together with the Enchantress is potentially just a little bit stronger in that lane than a DK could. Just, again, the Mystic Snake versus the DK is quite strong. So this is not that bad of a lane right now for Complexity. The mid lane Z-Freak is waiting for the Korea. I'm not sure this is going to be successful.
Well,
move
Kyo
right now.
doesn't... At least it doesn't bring a salvo, but it does have the boots queued up and plenty of money for it. I might just wait anyway until it's flying. Until you see Z-Freak at the very least.
Bottom lane, we have the Drow Ranger here, together with the Tusk. They did block the pole camp, so no pole shenanigans here from the Immortal side, so should be a somewhat easy time here for Chessie to farm up.
Z-Freak misses the timing, but you might be able to get it on the way back here if they catch a glimpse on it. As it reaches QO, and they do indeed.
Gonna be
Z-Freak.
a bit of a bad
There
timing.
it is,
I
one,
believe. Yeah.
and it's another one. He's fast, but is he fast enough? Courier even walking 380 movement speed to the 340, so unfortunate. Is not able to get that. Not this time, anyway. He did it on the Witch Doctor in game 1, I believe.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And it definitely changed the dynamic of the lane as well, right? Taking
Yeah.
away that bottle.
But anyway, Q at the very least he already has his magic move, so
Oh,
This,
together with that
snake
Ursa
box-
clapped.
so much slower actually now with the drag back pullback on a flame break to dodge some of the damage with the disruption. So he will survive, but only just. Oh, it's so dangerous, these kind of rotations from the Enchantress with the creep.
Got it.
Definitely, and this wasn't even the best creep to have as well for this kind of rotation, right?
Yeah.
If this is a troll, that's most likely to kill because of the lockdown.
Oh, Snowball, heavy. His TP actually got interrupted and now starting to drop lower and lower. Doesn't have the stomp available to try and protect himself, so deny to Ancients will be successful.
That's good.
Alright, no first blood just yet. There's gonna be in silence for 26 seconds at least.
Really important here to deny that first blood. That is 2 supports committed. I mean, I say committed, but you know, it's like 10 seconds wasted, I suppose.
Yeah.
CS-wise, the Drow Ranger again is pretty much free farming this lane. There's not much that Immortals can do just now. coL has been down here for the past 2 minutes roughly, making it very difficult for them to actually get in range. It is, by the way, the core Nyx assassin here in this game, which we were speculating about. Moo up top. He's doing fine. He's drawing even pretty much what we talked about in the draft. You know, he's getting harassed, but he can't really get zoned out because of that Dragon Blood region and armor, of course.
I think the mid lane is really where it's at. I mean, Limb starting to pull ahead slightly. Just continue to be helped out by this position aura. +6 only for now, but the later the game goes, obviously, the more damage the Bat Rider will do based on that. And until then, you have to stick your Napalm to also tide you over.
Babby dispelling a smoke from Z-Freak with his own creeps.
Oh, shots! Actually catch 4 of them bottom. Follow-up slows, and this might very well be the first blood here. Chessie holding on, does not want to get stunned, and that is Benson for himself. It's one of the better heroes to grab it on.
Surprised they gave it to Chessie. I feel like this could have been potentially better on either coL or Z-Freak. You know, if coL suddenly, or if Z-Freak suddenly has like early boots, or just like halfway towards an urn, could be a little bit more valuable, but they do give it to Chessie. It's
like Draw Ranger, it's gonna go towards these power treads, and those early stats are gonna be extremely useful for a hero like Drow, especially in this kind of an offlane situation. It's still a little bit more dangerous than a safe lane for obvious reasons. MP. Hero play, tossing up Moo, and just picking up the bounty instead. Did you get the other one already?
No, that was
got
Moo.
the other one.
Moo got the other one.
So 1-for-1 trade there. Not a lot of kill potential still there up top, so they're in their own little microcosm right now, absent of any sort of support rotations. They'll just trade farm essentially the entire time.
Complexity are really spending a lot of time down here for this lane, which makes sense because you do want to give a lot of experience towards the other lanes, right? Bat Rider, DK definitely level dependent, and of course you also want to give them farm. And Tiny and Duisa aren't necessarily the easiest heroes to gank either, so really the most kill potential Complexity do have is on this lane, either the Nyx Assassin or the Elder Titan. Shadow Demon is of course also a target, but because he is sitting behind the Duisa, close to the tier 1 tower, it's difficult to catch him off guard. That said, Z-Freak has true Troll Warlords now, or not Troll Warlords, Troll, whatever they're called. I have Steam in German.
Actually, Dark Troll Summoners.
Dark Troll Summoners.
Do actually almost running into Z-Freak, even though he did scour out that rotation. They do have a ward seeing that. And, not sure if they actually also spotted Carl or whether they walked up the high ground.
Should have. I believe that should have spotted him.
There's 2 wards down here actually, so yeah, he really should have been spotted.
At the same time though, just seeing them doesn't necessarily mean you can also, well, now with that TP for sure they can fight it.
They actually want to hear the snake coming through. Complexity not committed
a little bit
yet,
early.
So
I think if the supports position themselves better, then they are getting that kill, but that snake was probably like 2 seconds too early.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, it forces them away from Medusa.
And it's time wasted yet again.
So very quiet laning stage by comparison.
Very much so. Well, Limp finds the Shadow Demon here. He realizes, alright, they're stacking Ancients for this Dusa.
Good to know. Good to know.
To be expected anyway, of course. But it's good to know that you know which camp. Although it's a bit perceptive because Shadow Demon also stacked the other camp already as well.
Oh yeah. Like, eventually, once Medusa gets to the point where you have enough damage to farm that up efficiently, then Complexity will probably want to try and lob down some wards, see if they can contest it.
Like
ideally with
the rotation from the Shadow Demon. Definitely not something Complexity expected here.
Pop the ultimate here. Only 2 points up on Dragon's Blood actually. Ooh, not as tanky as he really could be, and with the extra magic damage from the toss, they do burst him down. Well played indeed. Meanwhile on bottom, another bit of a tussle, but Debbie's there to just keep Complexity away.
I'm not even that surprised about the 2 points in Dragon Blood by Moo, but the 1 point in Dragon Tail this early on, that's kind of what I'm surprised about. Yeah. I feel like he could have more lane control with the Breathe. I mean, I say more lane control. He's still out farming the Tiny, right? But 1 more point in Breathe Fire isn't that bad either. Especially since I doubt Moo will make any soon rotations, especially now that Dragon Form is off cooldown, on cooldown rather.
Yeah. Cal playing a bit with Forev. Chessie comes in, finally finishes off that ward that he found. Just continuing to try and poke at each other down the bottom lane. But Chessie, he is continuing to farm. He's also getting a good amount of levels here, especially considering that it's not always easy in an aggro try or an aggro lane position. But level 6 also helping out quite a bit. Moo gone on again. Doesn't have actually a way to eat through the trees just yet. Golden Blade coming back to the inventory. The Avalanche will miss. The toss, obviously not. Now, this time there's a rotational Limb. Ready with the Firefly, ready to turn this around. Starting to stack up the damage with the last onto the Tiny. So this is a foregone conclusion. NP doesn't really have a way of getting himself out of this one, does he? Avalanche coming through. Yeah, he's slowed down enough. Meanwhile, though, on the other side of the map, Tusk. Way too deep inside the jungle, all alone.
Yeah, yet again, the coL warding mission goes a little bit awry. They do find him together with Adusa as well, but that ward is very important.
Yep.
Unless it got scouted out, this is going to probably pay off, in some form or another. But yeah, good rotation from Limp early on. This is the first ultimate reveal. Well, I say reveal, but the first ultimate was used.
That's about to expire, and they don't quite land the shots. If they do land the shots, that's a dead Elder Titan, pretty sure.
Very much so.
Especially with the silence being able to interrupt the Stomp if he chooses to use it.
Oh boy, Z-Freak, he's going to set up for a push here together with the DK most likely. At least that's what it seems like, because he's positioning himself.
Doctor told someone not. Oh.
Alright, maybe he's not pushing after all. He can also just be farming, honestly.
Yeah.
They're winning the economy war. They're 2k gold ahead despite not having a tower taken.
Yeah.
This is just the power of having a jungler and pretty much winning all lanes towards CS.
You're not really pressured to take early towers anyway. I mean, you have to draw a ranger. Like, whenever you get... like, as long as the hero gets levels, the moment you find a tower, find a couple of seconds to wail away at it, it's gonna drop down very, very fast. Not just with that, but also, of course, the DK and the Enchantress creeps eventually just still helping out to tank it if you need to.
I really like this in Complexity. They're applying pressure on two fronts. They're pushing two waves at the same time. Yeah. Not something you see that often, but it kind of splits the attention from Immortals, so they can't really respond to just one push. They have to respond to both pushes, right? And now, though, Chessie, as I say that, does move towards the top lane to ensure this tower is being taken. There's nothing Immortals can do about this. And this is what I mentioned in the draft. They really can't do anything against these pushes, and there is that very real fear of getting overrun by this lineup. Also because I do think going for that Nyx Assassin as a core left them a little bit passive in that laning stage.
Yeah.
The Elder Titan couldn't really do anything in the laning stage. What did he really do bottom? He didn't really stabilize the lane either. Nyx Assassin definitely got out-farmed. Nothing the ET could have done about that. So I feel like if they had an active roamer, something that we've seen from the Clockwork in the previous game, I feel like this could have been a slightly different game.
Yeah. It stands right now for, I mean, he's level 6, but if you had to see him start to rotate around, that's normally what you want to do as a Nyx Assassin, right? As an offlaner or even as a support. Once you hit level 6, you go in with, you try and set up for some sort of kill, but what hero to come up with at this point? It's gotta have to be the Tiny, right?
Pretty much. The Tiny is the sort of hero with the most amount of damage on this team right now. But right now they only see the Z-Freak Enchantress up here. It's still gonna be a worthwhile kill.
Yeah, should have enough burst damage if Tiny gets close with the Avalanche toss, but now for all on this side of the map does start up with a stun. They do have to follow up control with disruption into the storm. 4 heroes. Healing Sprites did come out. Makes it a little bit harder actually. Z-Freak, though, with the help of the Soul Catcher up at level 3. He's going for the QW build instead of the Shadow Point right away. We haven't talked about that yet, but that made sure that the whatever burst damage they had does not get stopped or mitigated.
Bottom lane though, Mu immediately popping the Dragon Form once he does see the initiation top. And
same
mid
time
lane
mid
as well.
Chessie, just clicking away. They're not getting away with that scot-free. But, as I say that, Z-Freak. coL actually, with the snowball here, dodging an initial initiation, but still, Soul Catch on top of him, Omar will do it, but nice silence here and help from the rest of his team to try and prevent that, but the Stomp connects just on the edge. Unfortunate, coL once again is sacrificial lamb. But Tier 1 has fallen. Immortals, they had to commit quite a bit in mid, and now they want to try and get something more done. Find another Stomp, draw our engine side, but a little bit too deep behind the tower to really get a kill off of that. And Limb is still there, he's starting to spam the napalm.
This is kind of a pointless move right now from Immortals. They can't really look for kills without the Tiny. At least not on anybody but the supports, right? They definitely, and even on the Enchantress, they definitely need the Tiny as well. So right now, the support, pretty much everybody in this mid lane, bit of waste time really. Yeah, they do defend that push, but afterwards they didn't really accomplish anything.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Top lane,
he's gonna get the tower. Shards just a little bit too late. With that, he also has more than enough money to finish up the Blink Dag in the side shop if he wants to, and immediately turn it around perhaps if coL sticks around, perhaps Z-Freak as well.
They do have the DK here as well.
Bit of a difference here. Walks in for a Dragon Tail. There's no blinking. If they can keep up the damage, and they can indeed.
the
Shots are
shards.
blocking them off, but now Snowball. Blink just coming off cooldown, but it's Kyle, perfect timing. Making sure that he doesn't get himself out of that situation. Moves the one who claims the kill with gratitude.
Good rotation. Bit of an unfortunate for Immortals, really. They positioned the ET because they knew this was happening anyway, or you know, they knew some sort of aggressive movement was coming out because they did have a ward in the enemy jungle, and they thought with just the ET sitting here, they can just potentially save the Tiny, or maybe even turn it around.
Blink. Speaking of blinks here, Limp shows off his follow-up stun here for moves. He made rotation. And it's a quick kill on Nyx Assassin. It's exactly what you want, right? I mean, obviously, as a mid-bat rider, you get so much more money even. But he still went straight for the blink, only the wand and the null talisman. No drums, no anything. But you immediately get a kill with it too.
Have to be careful though. The Tiny with the blink is here, and there is a lot of kill potential here after all. So yeah, complexity, fall back, smart decision. But once again, this is where I criticize Immortals draft. The two supports, they could just watch the Shadow or the Bad Rider just kill it, or dragging the Nyx Assassin away. You could criticize the positioning, but you could also look at these two heroes. What are they really going to do? Yeah, there's the defensive disruption, but still, if these were two active supports, they could at least apply pressure elsewhere. But this way, they're just sitting there watching their own core being taken away. And right now, complexity on a really good, on a really good time to really just not necessarily take this game, but at the very least take as many towers as they can with this draw range lineup. Right now, only the tier 2 towers left. Well, actually, no, mid, of course, but it's very low. It's most likely going to fall soon anyway. And Mu, once the Dragon Form is available again in 30 seconds, I expect him to apply pressure yet again.
Look at this too. Like, normally it's, of course, that's what you want to do, to get Medusa ahead. There's farm the Ancient Camps, but I guess it's just good for the experience. Like, Shadow Demon just a level 6,
really need the
Elder Titan as
experience,
well, but at the same time, it just, something feels off when you see both supports just sitting there for so long, not really doing anything aggressive, just because we're so used to seeing a lot of rotations, a lot of teams trying to make things happen with their roamers, rather than just playing super defensive on both of them.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
And on the other side, we have, two, on Radiant, we have two supports watching their carry take the Ancients and soaking experience there. But on the other side, we have just pretty much everybody in Complexity trying to farm as much as possible. I guess Kyle's not really farming. He's mostly just scouting, warding, getting pinged out, and most likely dying here. Oh, yeah, at least he sees it coming at least, right?
Yeah, and he dodges the stun, but not the MP initiation.
Unfortunately, gets dewarded as well.
Yeah. This sentry just... that's Radiant Water anyway. Unfortunate. But again, Kyle, tank of the gang. He keeps doing that. And I believe that was the first real Vendetta that we've seen from Forever.
Very much so, yes. It's been difficult for Forever in this game. It's not really easy to find those kills, mostly because you don't really have that map control. Your lane's like constantly getting pushed in. So it becomes really obvious once the Nyx Assassin goes missing that he's not really doing anything, or that he's, most likely looking for a kill.
Moo. Let's get the Ancients here, just tanking something themselves. Nice little silence here to be a bit of a combo breaker, but the Storm still comes through. Febby will almost be right-click down. Limp has to take over, but just plus the Stone Gaze, zoning them away from the Dragon Knight. He's still alive. Another Avalanche now. Final last comes through. Disruption to save him a little bit. Q continue to right-click, and Mu has fallen. 1-for-1 trade. In for Febby now, but it was by Kerpastan onto Lim. The toss only on one of his own illusions. Lim actually feeling comfortable continuing forward here, pushing MP back, slowed down. Extra couple of right clicks here. They do bring down big old Tiny. Nakyo completely out of mana, starting to right click down. Z-Freak and as well as Jesse, just completely free to do whatever they want. Just blink away from the backlines. Exactly what their lineup is supposed to do. You have the front line, just tanking everything single spell. Sure, Dragon Knight dies, but it still worked out perfectly in the end. And now, straight into the Roche Pit. Super fast, even without a lot of minus armor.
I'm pretty sure this is exactly what Complexity wanted, because just before that fight, Mu picks up the Hooded Defiance and immediately postures themselves that aggressively in a position where they knew the opponents had vision, because Kyle literally just died there, right?
Yeah.
So they knew this was, or they knew they would go onto that, and they would fight, really.
Yeah.
And they just turn it around. Really good positioning from them as well, being able to hide around the Medusa and the Tiny as well. And this is just the power of their lineup right now. This is their peak, really, with the Aegis now as well, and the Dragon Form available soon again. I cannot emphasize this enough, but expect these towers to fall really, really soon.
Oh yeah. It's kind of a miracle that Immortals held on to tier 1 for as long as they did. Of course, that has fallen since. And, well, still tier 1 mid, pretty healthy here on sort of complexity. Same for the tier 1 bottom, 1600 health points, 100%. No ability to pressure that, of course, with Chessie aggroing that up with help of supports. But it's a bit of an issue because Tiny, we keep talking about this hero, but at its core it's still very heavily momentum based, and he's kind of starting to fall behind. He's going for the Echo 4 stuff actually. Interesting. On MP. What do you make of that?
Probably about the charts. It's really difficult, and also you get kited very easily with the Bad Rider sticky napalm as well. So I assume if he does actually pick up the 4 stuff, yeah, it's most likely about that, making sure that if anybody does get caught out of position, you're able to support them. Most likely to do so, of course, but also even yourself, being able to be more mobile with the Blink Dagger on top of it.
Yep.
coL getting scouted out. Most likely going to be the first kill here again, but
there it is. The lasso comes in, finds the next assassin, the stance, and everybody's Stonegate still comes through Chessie. Have to turn around, like throw something right is the way, but now he's over in frontline mood, taken over. It's not going to be enough to toss. We'll finish him up, but only the Aegis. Can they get more? A couple of right clicks here. Move, continue to fight. Stomp. Chessie needs to get them away from him, but well, Elder Titan stomping, but not gonna be enough. Chessie will eventually get the kill. Meanwhile, rest of complexity finishing up Hero. Nothing left to throw after that Stonegate. Now MP being forced off the round. It's a full 5-man wipe.
And Wu still survives.
Again, power of the Aegis. Kyle the only one dying, as is per usual with complexity, but it's working out extremely well. Right, there's no other way to say it. Mu, this time he doesn't even fall, just taking over the front lines just at the right time.
This feels very much like a repeat of the first game in a lot of ways, where Immortals is just not able to get into those fights properly. They don't really find those kills. It's too difficult for them to bring down anybody, really. It doesn't necessarily help that they focus the DK as much as they do as well. Yeah, they do bring down the Draw Ranger early on, but that's also because Chessie positions himself in a position where he knows, well, even if I don't go down, I still have the Aegis, right? Exactly. And I have the Hurricane Pike as well.
If he doesn't have Aegis, there's no way he's up there all by himself, right? No way he walks this far forward ahead of Mu, essentially.
Speaking of, though, Chessie does not have the Aegis right now, getting caught out, and there's a Blink from the Tiny available.
Also Stomp, I believe, from the from the Centaur, from Enchantress, but MP with the Blink, as I said, Chessie. Alright.
Definitely a misplay, though. This is definitely a misplay, though. He should not have been in the position. Very greedily farming without any vision around him whatsoever. He has an Enchantress behind him, and I feel like that gave him that confidence to be there, but he really shouldn't have, because it's just an Enchantress after all. 40 seconds without the Draw Ranger means that they can't fight for 40 seconds because of the, they don't have the aura, and that's a tier 1 tower as well. Again, it's like a small thing, but for a lineup that relies on sort of like momentum in a lot of ways, not really good at all.
Maybe consider the Storm just smoking him out of the trees here. Kyle and Blimp setting up. They don't quite want to let this tower go. At least they want to try and play for the 9. There's a catapult, so eventually it'll go down. But Q barely gets the last arrow in himself, and then they can retreat. All right, Immortals, they finish up that play. But complexity still just showing presence here.
It is worth noting that despite the advantage, of course, from complexity, the cores on the Radiant side are still keeping up somewhat. The Dusa, of course, still the second highest net worth. It is a Dusa after all, but this is really important to note because in the they do still have a lot of high ground defense, right? They have the Elder Titan, they have the Dusa, they have a lot of ways of sort of picking people off one by one, just blinking in, tossing somebody back, for example. So in that sense, Immortals not out of this game just yet, and in a much better position than in the first game. It still feels very similar in a way they're getting overrun, but at least they have that fallback potential, which they didn't have with the Luna at the time.
Exactly. It's so important that, because eventually, like Medusa right now, it cannot feel super comfortable in these fights outside of the Stonegaze, right? Stonegaze still forces complexity to turn around and try and kite it out. But beyond that, we've seen it time and time again. He is very vulnerable indeed. But that's going to change sooner rather than later, right? He's already starting to go into the Skadi, so him having as much net worth as he has really makes sure that, as you said, they have that fallback potential. They have this safety of knowing, alright, eventually this Medusa will be able to fight and will be much harder for complexity to deal with. Now they even claiming another tier 2. Complexity
Yeah,
not
and
quite in
Complexity
position
not
to
even
actually
trading
contest
this at
it.
all.
Yeah, and
They're not really getting into the map. They were smoked up trying to look for a kill.
Radiant's
coL
middle
now
tower
might
is
actually be the
under
one to just die first again. Actually, he does drop the sentry. Scouts out for Rev.
yeah, just in time. Follow-up stun as well from Moo. Punched up into the air. Defensive disruption to turn this around, but they're fighting on the shrine. The Laster comes through. They bring down Dubu. First casualty here, and all of a sudden, Immortals are not quite in the right position themselves to continue to take this fight. Febby will be run down eventually here, trying to stomp by himself some extra time, but Snowball will connect, cancel the TP.
Not worth it though. They committed the entire 5-man rotation. They still lose to tier 2,
Yeah.
and they only get the 2 supports out of it.
Bit of damage done to the tier 2 in mid though, at the very least. Still think that's okay, but you're absolutely right? You want to try and find Cure.
All with this Dusa
And
kill.
that's exactly what they're trying to do now. Limp, without the ultimate, you don't have that easy way of control, but Stone Gaze, no more mana. Able to burn through it just in time. Defense disruption here. Dubu comes in, and more heroes. Foroth stuns up Limp. Plenty of burst damage. They still find Cure, but at what cost? Limp will be dropped down himself. Now Zefrig, perhaps next on the list, but he has some reinforcements coming in off himself. The silence, the slows, onto the next assassin. Does not enough spike carapace if the silence ever ends, but it doesn't. Such a crazy ability here.
Zefrig
6
part of
seconds, even without
12
penalty.
out of 16 kills yet again. This Zefrig Enchantress has been all over the place. And not only all over the place, but he's been dealing the damage, really, in this entire game. This Enchantress is really, really strong. And it feels kind of ridiculous looking at 2 heroes being able to kill the Dusa without committing an ultimate for it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, they didn't have the ultimate, but they didn't even need it, because this Enchantress deals so much damage. They have the slow, of course, and the kiting potential from the Bat Rider, which makes the Bat Rider, by the way, yet a really, really good pick in this game, or made it a really, really good pick in this game.
Radiant's middle tower.
And as
It's
you
gonna get
mentioned,
worse, right? I mean, draw range is on level 16, but closing in on that level 18. So right now, it's 54 damage, which is significant, but it's by far not the top, right? Especially once Jesse eventually goes into more stat items.
I was
right
just
now
about to
has
say,
that
he didn't
BKB.
even build a lot of stat items,
Yeah,
right? So once those big, heavy items come out, obviously he still wants to make sure that he survives in the first place. So going for the BKB, I definitely support that decision. But at some point, we're going to look towards something like a butterfly even. And then the other heroes are really going to start to hurt. They're already hurting.
Yeah. They've held on, but, well, you mentioned it before, right? Complexity is still winning that economic game overall. Sitting at about 8k, 9k ahead in terms of that, and even experience, even more than that. It's getting closer to that 15k mark than Immortals really want to. But now, 4F sitting in front, just waiting for some sort of background initiation, and there it is, immediately. But still gets that last off. Only casting Firefly now, the silence comes through, but the toss will ensure that he dies. Nice little stomp there! Triple stomp from the center from Enchantress. Zefrig does it again, 1 for 1 trade, 1 for 2. And now, Cure trying to fight with that Stone Gaze, forcing Complexity to turn around for a second. Moo ready to turn around, and now coL, the perfect time snowball into the punch, into more right clicks, triple kill from Zefrig, making an ultra. No, never mind, coL's taking it away. But damn, Complexity, they know exactly how to approach these fights, and when they win them, you mentioned it before as well, towers will fall. Moo still with plenty of time left on that ultimate form, forcing out 2 buybacks immediately. That's the only reason they hold on to the tier 3, and despite that, down to half health.
I'm still stumbled by that triple Centaur stun.
That was crazy.
They jump in
that
very
won in the fight, hands down.
They jump in very aggressively with the Bat Rider and almost suicidal in a way, and only to grab the ET, which they didn't even kill during the lasso, by the way. But that triple Centaur stun so made up for it.
Good.
I almost wonder if that was planned, right? Just lure them into a very unfavorable position,
Maybe, yeah.
move the Centaur in there and just get that stun off.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane, and yet again, Complexity coming out on top.
Also, like the way Lim played this. I mean, he didn't even pop the Firefly instantly, so he didn't get stunned out for too long by the Spike Carapace. So he was able to get them the distance away, force them into that position, force them to go into Complexity, and make that all happen. Right? If Bat Rider dies under the tower, maybe the fight looks completely different.
Now, with Roshan up and with the buybacks committed from Immortals, this Roshan will not necessarily decide really the game, but it has the potential to be the final nail in the coffin for Immortals here, really. They cannot give away the Roshan, and ideally they want it themselves, of course, Because again, coL did commit that buyback.
Yeah.
But of course, Complexity would never want to give it up either. That said, both teams are smoked up and they're going to miss each other for now.
Definitely feels like Immortals are balancing on the edge of a knife here.
Are scanning.
Oh, nice
If they
scan here
lose
from them.
Medusa again, then they will give up Roche. They will maybe give up even a set of racks. but
Radiant are scanning.
both teams smoke up. They backstab the smoke. I think it just expired, so Complexity might not even necessarily know what's happening. The stun will miss though from far. Now Mu pops the ultimate. Jesse with a BKB. The lasso finds Elder Titans, so no more shenanigans from him. He'll be brought down. Cure silence up himself here by the Mask of Madness. Now defensive resolve to make sure that he can still get the stun gaze off. Couple of right clicks here. Jesse still not much alive from kicking. Mu has to walk away. They still haven't lost any heroes though. Where's the damage coming from? The answer's nowhere. coL trying to TP out. That's not going to happen. Follow-up slows onto Shadow Demon, and GG is called. Complexity, we're just talking about it. Win another team fight, probably win the game, and well, they'll probably turn this definitely as Immortals. They make the GG call.
They were overrun. This was a draft win from start to finish. But I don't want to take anything away from Complexity in terms of execution.
Oh yeah.
Of course, you do have to make this draft work by just playing really well, and they did. Once again, Z-Freak at the center of it, but also can't really take anything away from Mu. Mu with really clutch rotations. It's really the small things, but using Dragon Form, pushing a tower, and immediately TPing to another lane, not even necessarily immediately hitting that tower as well, but just applying pressure there and start pushing.
Yeah.
It's this kind of mentality that Mu has, always trying to push for his team lane to lane, rotating between those. And then, of course, we have Limp on that Bad Rider. Fantastic performance from him as well. Not only dominating the mid lane, but then, of course, even the mid game, he's been a real threat. I will say his lasso's not necessarily even been on point. I mean, he twice now he's grabbed ET. They don't even kill him before he gets the Earth Splitter off. But it's just in general, he's been creating so much space. But just a general nuisance with those sticky napalm charges, of course. Or stacks, rather.
Oh yeah. In this game, it feels like Mu on the Dragon Knight, he fulfilled the role that Limp had on the Viper in game number 1, just being this tanky guy in the front lines that just creates so much chaos. And Jesse, time and time again, he didn't really get gone on. He died once this entire game. And every single fight Complexity won was because they were able to just keep them away. Not just Mu, of course, but also Limp and Z-Freak, even with the creeps. We saw the crazy Centaur Stomp. And all of that just worked together so extremely well. Complexity, great game plan, great execution. That led them to the Game 3 victory. The scoreline is now 2-1 in this best of 5. Immortals now on match point. We'll see whether they can tie it up one more time, or whether Complexity walk away and punch their ticket to Genting. Couple moments time, then we'll head into the next game. Stay tuned.